Hello everyone, welcome back to my bookish channel. I'm Paul and it's actually sunny today in Levenshulme in South Manchester. So I want to get out and about this afternoon, hopefully. Although I've written my words for the day, so I'm free to go in my kind of self-imposed um, writing regime. I do want to just sit and read this. Adam Neville's novel, Last Days, from a few years ago. I've had this for years and years knocking about the house, but it was forbiddingly huge. So it stayed on the top landing uh, to be read mountain. And yesterday, it just leapt into my hand. I finished reading a slightly dreary novel that I hadn't enjoyed much, and I was looking for something new. I've got heaps of new things waiting for me that I've been looking forward to. But for some reason, this spooky novel about um, found footage movies and strange ambient scary stuff fell into my hand, and I read 100 pages before I knew it, and that's all I want to read now. Anyway, today I'm doing something else spooky. I've got a box to unbox from the Abominable Book Club, which is a book club I was in for about 6 months and really enjoyed getting their monthly parcels. I actually thought I'd unsubscribed last month, but here it is. These size boxes look like a kind of supremely spooky pair of shoes you're going to get. But it's not, it's books and things. I really liked being part of this, but I had to economize slightly. I was in a number of subscription book clubs, including Box of Stories, which I liked a bit at the beginning, but then less so as it went on. So I had 6 months or so with that. They're interesting to try these things. Madness, really, for somebody like me who just buys books wherever they go and really values my own ability to choose things for myself. The whole mystery thing, it did appeal to me, getting a box and you have no idea what's in it. Anyway, so this is where I traditionally do myself a mischief with a tiny pair of scissors. I'll try not to and concentrate. Right, I've cut through. I'm going to put the scissors away. At least I'm not using anything sharper than baby scissors that you have in junior school, I think, with the rounded ends. Remember them? For cutting out sticky back plastic and felt. Right, so, oh, Serpent's Tail novel. Do you remember them? This is A Good House for Children, Kate Collins. Now that's a name I recognise, I think. Despite Orla's misgivings, her husband insists on a crumbling mansion at the end of the Dorset Cliffs is a perfect place to raise their two children. It sounds a bit fancy schmancy. But the Reeve is a house where, you know, the kind of middle class, oh, it's so awful, our house is crumbling. Um, it's a disaster. Life isn't quite as perfect as we'd anticipated, that kind of middle class horror. But the Reeve is a house where doors open on their own, reflections cannot be trusted, and her son becomes obsessed by his imaginary friends. 4 decades earlier, in 1976, Lydia moves to Dorset as a nanny. So it's a split time novel. As a nanny for a family grieving their patriarch. All this poshery is pissing me off, actually, in novels. Um, I don't know what it is. It's ever since bloody J.K. Rowling set her school stories in a public school. And there's a lot of kind of wank about posh people. I can't stand it. Um, Set it in a comprehensive. Set it on a council estate for a change. Jesus. She also, sorry, I'm taking it out on this. I'm sure it's very nice. She also soon starts to hear and feel things that can't be real, but her bereaved employer doesn't listen when Lydia tells her something is wrong. Both Lydia and Orla realise, this is quite a long blurb, that the longer they stay at the Reeve, the harder it will be to keep the children safe. So it's a kind of um, turning of the screw, isn't it? Keep the children safe from whatever lurks inside it. A Good House for Children is the bone-chilling tale of two women bound together by a terrible place. And of course, it says, New York Times, feminist gothic that evokes Shirley Jackson. Well, it would, wouldn't it? I just heard that one of the new Doctor Who books coming out is a crossover with Shirley Jackson, or a meeting between the Doctor and Shirley Jackson, which is quite exciting. They announced a whole bunch of new Doctor Who novels, including my next one, over the weekend or just before. And Shirley Jackson is popping up there, along with Frida Kahlo and Charles Darwin, and my own book about Lewis Carroll. So that's quite interesting and literary, isn't it, for Doctor Who? Anyway, this looks all right, I guess. It says it's her first novel. Her name was familiar. I wonder why. Anyway, yeah, I'm not intrigued by the poshery of it. Maybe I'm just being prejudiced against people with big houses. I don't know. It begins, it's possible to love something too much. It's even possible to love something to death. And when Sam was 7 weeks old and screaming himself scarlet, with an existential fury particular to small babies, Orla McGrath stood over his cot and thought, I love you so much I could kill you. It was only a quick thought, and it passed into that humid night soon enough, but from time to time over the years she would remember that she had once had it, and adrenaline would race up her spine. That's quite good. That's good. That's the kind of the horror stuff where they locate, where they go straight to thoughts that people would rather not air. That's what horror fiction does. People's secrets, isn't it? That's what's horrible about horror. Black Sheep. Now this is familiar too. Rachel Harrison. Now, Titan books. This is one of the things with the Abominable Book Club. They do a lot of Titan books. They must have some kind of special connection with them. So you found that one or maybe even two books each time were coming from Titan, which is fine. I think Titan do some lovely books. I think in terms of crime fiction and science fiction and horror, they're doing really nice things lately. It's suddenly appeared this kind of roster of amazing people they've got, and my friend Stuart Douglas is one of them. His first crime book in his own series comes out this summer. So I'm very fond of Titan and what they do. This is Black Sheep. Oh, it's the woman who wrote Cackle, the kind of witchy book that I was intrigued by. I haven't read yet. Nobody has a normal family, but Vesper writes is truly something else. Vesper left home at 18 and never looked back, mostly because she was told that leaving the staunchly religious community she grew up in meant she couldn't return. But then an invitation to the wedding of Vesper's cousin Rosie arrives. Something inside her insists she goes, even if it means returning to the toxic environment she escaped, even if it means reuniting with her mother Constance, a former horror film star and forever Ice Queen. Well, that lifts it a bit, doesn't it? The kind of schlocky horror film stuff. A lot of these novels these days seem to be about people returning to the site of psychic dread, of kind of family horror, which can get a bit wearing, the psychological, I was so damaged by my childhood and now here I am going to face it again as a a ruined adult. Horror doesn't just have to be that, I guess. I suppose that's the interest in Shirley Jackson, isn't it? That's what she wrote about. That's why she's come back into vogue, perhaps. When Vesper's homecoming exhumes a terrifying secret, she's forced to reckon with her family's beliefs and her own crisis of faith in this fiery, irreverent horror novel. Now, I don't get irreverent from the blurb at all, so maybe that means it's a bit funnier and dafter than the blurb makes it sound. We'll see. It's not selling me it yet, actually. I've no idea where we're going with it. I don't think it's a particularly good blurb. God, I'm picky, aren't I? But I am picky. I'm allowed to be because uh, I'm no longer teaching. I'm picking my own books for myself. I'm not beholden to anyone apart from friends whose books I always buy and always read and mostly enjoy, and I will always push to the fore people whose work I support. But I must say in these videos I will always give an absolutely honest opinion on what I think, and sometimes that's awkward. Sometimes that's embarrassing, and I will rant, I'm afraid. I have some Yorkshire flapjack, cappuccino flapjack. One of the great things about the Abominable Book Club is that they send you extra stuff, supplies of things like flapjack and chocolate and tea and coffee. And I used to kind of smile when people opened these up. Crinkly paper in their YouTube videos, but actually, I quite like it. And in fact, these pucker tea bags are very useful, and the hot chocolate and the coffee and stuff. Good, good. It's good to have extra supplies of tea and coffee and stuff. I have a million kinds of tea bags, obviously, in this house, and various kinds of coffee. But it's nice to get recommendations actually, or for teas and coffees and things. I'm a bit of a tea snob and a coffee snob. We drive miles to go and get our coffee from Home Sense in Handfast because I shouldn't say this because everybody will go and buy them now. But if you buy a kilo bag of coffee beans, they come from Italy or Spain or wherever, and it's a big saving. If you grind your own beans, and it's much, much nicer than almost anything else you can get. And so we've done it for ages, and we make special trips to go and get coffee. It's a trip out. They also do little stickers and things, which I love. Such a teenager. VHS chic. We've been ranting lately on maybe on this channel or something else about how much we miss VHS video shops. No, it was a meeting last week, and we were talking there about how lovely it would be not to go somewhere like Blockbuster. Blockbuster was a bit Iceland, a bit Woolworths, which has its own kind of chic, I suppose. But the dingy ones by bus stations, those kind of video shops where they had video nasties with faded covers and things under the counter. And their bookmarks, which God, I have such a collection of bookmarks and I love them. These are always themed to do with the books, and you get a nice letter from the author of one of the books in the club at some point. This is from Rachel Harrison, who wrote Black Sheep. I hope it's fun. That and a signed book plate, which is nice. I hope it's more fun than it seems in the thing. And an Elm Street patch. It is, isn't it? Oh, with a baseball thing with a claws for Freddy Krueger. It's really funny how the nostalgia and the cachet of all those 80s kind of movies, which were so schlocky and throwaway when I was a kid, are so prominent now. Things like Willow and Neverending Story and Labyrinth and things we took for granted in the 80s. Anyway, right, the other thing about the Abominable Book Club is their mystery package that they do each time with a little seal stamped in kind of waxy blood. And this could be anything. And I do enjoy these. Often I've had them and I've read them before, which is a bit funny. But we'll see this time. I'm going to cut the string and see what's inside. Nope, not familiar. Looks like a thriller. The Eyes Twins. It's one of those big writing on slightly bluey black thing and girls in red dresses. So, a dead girl's thriller, one of those. After one of their identical twin daughters, Lydia, dies in an accident, Angus and Sarah Moorcroft move to a remote Scottish island. That's a genre in itself, isn't it? The remote. I've got bits everywhere. It's one of these packages with this shit in it. I've just dropped it all over my reading chair. The cat is going to go spare when he sees that. Keeps the things safe, but it gets everywhere. Remote Scottish island, hoping to mend their shattered lives. But when their surviving child, Kirsty, claims they've mistaken her identity, she in fact is Lydia. I wrote a novel about twins and one being accused of murder. This is years ago, 24 years ago. It was called Modern Love. And the other one taking the rap for her sister's crime. Anyway, their world comes crashing back down. Oh, God, there's a lighthouse on the back. That puts me off slightly, given what I've just finished reading. And it wasn't Virginia Woolf. They know one of their daughters died, but can they be sure which one? Oh dear. Okay, well, we'll see. S.K. Tremaine has two daughters in real life. We'll see. Um, these things are usually quite throwaway. This genre. I like it as a genre, but it's hard to get it right. And I love the people who do get it right. And I'm thinking of books like The Woman in the Window or The Girl on the Train or um, oh, who else am I thinking of? But there's just certain ones where the story is clear and all the kind of gaslighting and the lies and the psychological stuff is just followable, if that's a word. Sometimes they can make themselves a bit overwrought and a bit torturous in their attempts to elude the reader. I was thinking last night about the reader's position in books where there's a mystery, and the ideal place to put the reader is slightly a couple of steps ahead of the cleverest person in the book, whether that's the detective or the amateur detective or the main point of view character. If the reader feels a couple of steps ahead or one step ahead, guessing things, they're flattered by that. And then the cleverest person in the book catches up with them and they're immensely flattered. And then the character in the book reveals something that the reader hasn't thought about. And that's even more exciting. That to me is the ideal thing, where you're slightly ahead and then slightly behind the detective character or the amateur sleuth. And that's where you want people to be. And sometimes books tie themselves in knots trying to get that right. I should know because I've tried that. It's a genre I like messing with sometimes. Right. That's everything in the box. All the things. So thank you, Abominable Book Club. Um, from whom I think I've unsubscribed at some point. Maybe that's next month. Maybe this is my last one. Nice to get all these things. I'm intrigued by these slightly. Um, the first one, the Serpent's Tail one, maybe most of all. But then I like the the note supplied with the Rachel Harrison one. This novel is for the black sheep, the bad kids, anyone who hides in the bathroom during family gatherings, or who has unfriended that uncle on Facebook. Ooh, but then we get the talk of therapy. I don't want to read about endless therapy, I must say. I think I prefer all the fighting to happen on screen in the collisions of the characters. Anyway, um, less psychological depth perhaps and more on the surface fights. Maybe that's my recipe for what I want to read. Right, I'm going to go. Thank you again for listening to my latest unboxing. Maybe this will be a Monday feature. I think I did one last week, didn't I, for Cromford Collector's Corner mystery package of comics. You can see the cardboard boxes piled up behind of things that I've had delivered, and they are now filled with drafts of things and drawings and all kinds of bits of paper that I can't quite uh, chuck out. I have a lot of drawings and a lot of pages of writing. Right, I'm going to go. Please like and subscribe and leave comments. I'm getting many, many comments and they're really enjoyable. And do spread the word about what I'm talking about. I'm hearing that people don't necessarily want themed videos. They quite like the zigzagging way that I read across different genres and the way that I chuck in things from different areas. So let me know about that. Do you want themed videos or do you prefer the zigzag? Okay. See you soon in the next episode. Okay. Oh, and look at Patreon as well, where there'll be new videos. Sorry, new, not nude. New videos that won't necessarily be on YouTube. Okay, goodbye.